Hello. Doing a bit of a surprise stream here. The plan tonight is to make a custom MIDI controller out of a mechanical keyboard type of thing. Just a moment, I should make a post on Mastodon. Just a second. Doing this on my phone with the OpenVibe app because I'm cross-posting to Mastodon and Blue Sky. It's being a bit slow, but we'll get there. Going live to make a custom MIDI controller with QMK. Okay, that's posted, I think. And I can bring myself back here. Right. Oh, and by the way, what we're hearing in the background is the recording of my recent live set played with PHP. Because I made a live coding system for PHP. But yeah. So, let's get started, shall we? And I'm gonna start with a bit of background, I suppose. So, I use this MIDI Fighter Twister MIDI controller a lot when I'm performing live. I use it together with my live coding setup to launch patterns and tweak parameters. And it's a great controller, but recently I've been thinking about ways to add more live performance functionality to my setup. Things like make this pattern start on the next whole cycle, or maybe start several patterns on the next whole cycle. Different kinds of fade outs and ins, because with this one I can do basic fade ins and outs. But yeah, just more stuff that I can do live is basically the goal. And the thing about this controller is that I'm pretty much already using all the knobs and buttons, so there's naturally room to add much more functionality. I mean, there's multiple pages on this thing, but it's just a bit inconvenient to have to switch pages in the middle of performing. It's not fast enough. That's basically the problem. So, the solution is add more buttons. And to that end, I was thinking about different kinds of button controllers that I could pair with this MIDI Fighter Twister. And of course, MIDI Fighter originally made a 16 button controller, which aesthetically would fit very nicely. And they're good quality arcade buttons as well. But those are a little bit expensive. And also maybe unnecessarily big. So I wanted something cheaper, I wanted something smaller. And in just a moment I will show you what I ended up with. Just need to grab a bit of lip balm first. Okay. So, what I ended up with is called the Winry 315. It's also called various other things, but let me show you the QMK page for it. So on the QMK GitHub there's a page for this controller, or macro pad as it's called. And it is known by various other names. It can be found on AliExpress. And QMK is fully supported for this one. So, okay, what is QMK? QMK, which stands for Quantum Mechanical Keyboard, is an open source community centered around developing computer input devices. The community encompasses all sorts of input devices such as keyboards, mice, and MIDI devices. A core group of collaborators maintains QMK firmware, QMK configurator, QMK toolbox, and QMK FM, and this documentation with the help of community members like you. Well, maybe not with my help so far. But yeah. So, when I say QMK, I'm mostly referring to the QMK firmware, which is something we can install on this thing. So, this is a macro pad, as they call it. There's 15 keys, although it doesn't come with any switches or keycaps. The idea is that you provide your own. I think you can order it with some as well, but I don't know. I had lots of leftover keycaps and switches, so I just ordered it without and popped in some of my MMD Vivian switches, which is like a very light linear switch. And then I just put these leftover pudding keycaps on here, and you can maybe see that the layout is clearly made from leftovers, because like, what do we have? Minus, slash, another slash and a question mark, and then these 12 I tried to go from like 1 to 12, but of course there's no 12 key, so here we switch to F10, F11, F12. Okay, so yeah, mine came in a translucent shell, which I think is really nice, because it's got RGB LEDs inside of it, so you get some cool lighting effects. It's got a USB-C connector, much like most things these days. So, the idea is that with these controllers side by side, I'll be able to hold keys here or key combinations and then do things on this controller, and then these will act like modifier keys for whatever I'm doing here. And to make that happen, we need to reconfigure this from being a macro keyboard to a MIDI controller. Oh, also I forgot to mention, but I guess you can see that there's 3 knobs on here, which can also be mapped to whatever. These are like infinite rotary encoders with discrete steps. You can feel it click, but kinda hear it also if I bring it very close. And then each of the knobs also can be pressed down. So that's another 3 buttons there. Okay, so in order to do this, we obviously need to plug it in. And you'll see it immediately starts to cycle through rainbow colors, and now I've already flashed like a QMK default key map onto this, but that's not exactly what we'll be using. So, let's go over here to the computer screen. It's been a while since I properly worked with QMK. So let's check here. I have the setup done. So in Emacs, oh yeah, I need a terminal for this. So here we have a terminal. I have the QMK command available. I've done the QMK setup, which they suggest here, or not suggest, but instruct. You need to do it the first time. And here's where you could try to compile like a default firmware for your keyboard. I've already done that, so I'm going to be skipping that. So we're just going to go to building your first firmware. And I'm not going to do this default configuration because I actually have multiple keyboards that I use with QMK, so won't do that. Here is where we start. So QMK new key map, and also we have to specify the keyboard name. New key map and -KB, and the keyboard name is basically the relative path to the keyboard from the QMK repos keyboards directory. So in here we have WinRe 315. So basically those last 2 bits of the path are what we need to put here. So WinRe/WinRe 315. And when I run that, it's gonna ask for a name, so it suggests you use your GitHub username, which I tend to do. So I'm gonna type that in there. And now it already tells us what we can do to compile that key map. So I'm just gonna copy this command here and run that. Hello FinStreamX. I see you are having fun. So the first build takes a moment. It's building a lot of dependencies. And there we go. And at the end it always does this firmware size check. So is the firmware small enough to actually fit onto the EEPROM, I guess, on the device. So I think we can then replace compile with flash in this command, and that will start flashing. Well, it will compile first if there is something to compile. Okay, and now it's saying bootloader not found. So what we need to do with this keypad is to check from the documentation how to enter the bootloader. And we're gonna go with the first one here because I think this is the easiest one. So boot magic reset, hold down the top left key, not the encoder, and plug in the keyboard. So that's very simple. I'm gonna unplug it here at the computer end. So hold down the top left key, plug it in, and now we see the flash command found it, and it actually flashed, and now it's already running. And it looks the same as before because it's the same default key map pretty much. So then we can go into the keyboard / winry/winry315 /keymaps folder, and here under Ahihi we now find the key map. So by default this just consists of a keymap.c. So if we just take a look at what's happening here, we include the QMK header, we define names for the different key map layers. Then there's a define for I think this is setting up a new key code called ultesc, and what it's doing is that if that key is held, then it acts as a layer switch. Otherwise, like if it's pressed and released, then it's just escape. Pretty sure that's how that works. And here we have the actual key map. So we can see here that at the top we map the encoders. That's like the 3 keys here. So yeah, so when we press the encoders, then these things are what will, or these are the key codes that will be sent. I don't actually know what imply is. Then we have key codes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Then we have that LTSC thing that we defined earlier. Tab, space, backspace, and enter. And then on the RGB layer, I guess we have just various RGB controls. And then in order to map the encoder twisting left and right, we have this encoder update user function, and that's where we have to write it out as C code. So we can see here that on the default layer, for example, the center encoder is gonna send volume up or volume down, and on the RGB layer it's gonna increase or decrease saturation. So if I hold down the RGB layer key, which is this one, then I guess these now give me RGB controls. So this is saturation, and this is gonna be brightness. Okay, so let's just quick check to verify that this default key map is in fact working. Okay, then what about MIDI? In the QMK documentation we can search for MIDI. So the very first thing we need to do is add MIDI enable equals yes to our rules.mk, and rules.mk needs to be created because it doesn't exist by default. So we put that in there. Then there are two MIDI systems, basic and advanced. We're gonna go straight for advanced. So then you need to put something in your config.h, which is another file we need to create. So we're gonna put define MIDI advanced. Then okay, so here is an example of using already like a fairly advanced setup. Let's just start with maybe sending some notes from the key presses. So we have key codes such as QK MIDI note C1 or MIC1 for short, and sharps and so on. Okay, let's make a major scale keyboard to start with. So what I'm gonna do is here in the default layer, I'm gonna start replacing these key codes. So we start with actually I'm gonna start from this one. So we're gonna go MIC1, oops, MID1, MIE1, MIF1, MIG1, A1, B1, then we wrap to C and we go for C2, D2, and finally E2. Okay, so now with this, the top two rows here should turn into a major scale MIDI keyboard. Let's try to flash that. And it's gonna recompile a bunch of stuff because we changed the config and also the rules.mk. Building. Okay, so it compiled, but the firmware is too large. And what can we do about that? Well, by default, QMK comes with a bunch of features that we can disable to make some room in the firmware. And in order to do that, I'm gonna look at my other keyboard. So in the past, I also made a key map for this keyboard here, which is the BM40 RGB revision 2. So I can steal some code from there. Okay, we'll enable LTO. I don't know if we need to change those other things right now. Let's look at the config H for this one, because that's where I did a lot of stuff. Yeah. So we're gonna disable VIA first of all. VIA is like a protocol and a piece of software that you can use to configure the keyboard on the fly. which can be nice, but I don't really have the need for that. Then there's some other things here. This is just some RGB configuration that doesn't, I think, impact the file size, but we'll throw that in there. And yeah, here is where I disable a whole lot of these default RGB animations, because those also take up space. So I'm just gonna do that. I think I'll leave just like maybe 1 or 2 of the default animations in there. So then we can try flashing again. Wait for it to compile. Okay, and we can see here that with everything disabled we lost like 10 kilobytes from the final firmware. And also I guess LTO helps there. So now I'm gonna unplug and hold the top left button and replug. And we successfully flashed. So now we can see that it switched to, I think because the animation that it was set to use last time no longer exists. It now defaults to like a solid color RGB setup. And I can change that color with these. I can change the saturation and the brightness. Then I think one of these keys will let me cycle through the existing animations. Maybe it's RGB mod. Weird. I know there is some way to go back to animation mode, but what exactly was that? Because I did this before today, accidentally, so it is possible, but I don't know how I did it. Well, let's not worry about that right now. Let's instead check whether our MIDI actually works. So I'm gonna start up MIDI monitor. Okay, so now in MIDI monitor I should see stuff happening when I start pressing these keys. Oops. Yep, we are indeed getting note off and note on events. So let's play something with those. I'm gonna make a new project in Bitwig with, I don't know, a piano sound. That's easy. Right, let's try that. So that works. It's not the best piano to play with only 10 keys, but that does demonstrate that MIDI is working. Alright. I am gonna check something else from my previous key map. Because in there I have some key combo to change the animations. Okay, so that is supposed to be the RGB mod. But that doesn't really do anything here. Did I? Wait, I think I don't actually have any animations enabled. That would maybe explain it. Oh yeah, I forgot these two here, so of course everything is disabled now, but let's enable a couple of animations. And now it's a bit annoying having to unplug and replug the keyboard every time I want to flash it. So let's define a key that lets me put it into bootloader mode without having to unplug. And I believe I have one of those on the other keyboard, so I think it's just QK boot. I'm gonna put that here. I'm gonna change this to a RGB mod instead of R mod. Okay. Let's try to flash, and now hopefully I'm gonna have to unplug for the last time. And we're flashing. Okay, let's see if we got our animations back. Yes. see on the camera, so let me turn down the brightness so it's maybe more visible. Yeah, so solid color is always there, and then we can do these two animations, rainbow, what were they called again? Cycle pinwheel and cycle spiral. And just to test that the bootloader key works, let me press that. Now the animation stops, so that suggests that we're in bootloader mode. So then I think I have to reflash. And we're back. Nice. So... let me just close some extra windows. Okay. So that gets us pretty far already. We could now basically just start mapping stuff. However, I don't actually want to use notes, like MIDI notes for this. I want to send MIDI CC messages, and that is a bit more complicated. Let's see here. Might be a good idea to open up the MIDI header, just so we can see what's in there. Or maybe QMK MIDI is the more interesting one. I don't know. Well, let's have it there in the background anyway. So here is where they have a CC example. And I was looking at this earlier, but I didn't quite understand how this works. But I guess we start by defining MIDI CC off and on. And we should also have a MIDI device variable. Yeah, I guess my question here is what exactly does this part do? So enum custom key codes, I assume that's like a predefined enum that QMK looks for. And yeah, but what is safe range, I wonder? Okay, let's search in the QMK source code. Okay, that seems to be just an alias for QK user. Alright, why not? But then, how does this work together with like non-custom keys? That's, I guess, what we need to find out. Okay, so first we're gonna enumerate our custom key codes, of course. Oh, okay, so we do it like this. Right, we start enumerating from safe range and then... Oh, actually, this can be called, I guess, whatever. What is important is that we match against these in process record user. Right, so I need to think about how I want to map this. Because I kind of want to do a CC number for each of the keys, but then one of them has to be the layer switching key, so maybe I'll just map that instead to one of the encoders for the time being. We're just gonna put... Alright, now. Let's see if that works. Well, this will work, but I'm wondering if I just put RGB here, then is it like a momentary or like a toggle for the layer? I don't know. But it does not matter. Let's see. So what did this look like again? Okay, MIDI CC. We're gonna start from 20, just because, I don't know, that somehow makes sense to me. Gotta align everything nicely. And then we'll go 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Honestly, I don't think I wanna name them this way. Or maybe I do actually. Okay, never mind. Oh, hello Tron Dog. MIDI controller for the rest of us. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Who is the rest of us in this case? Looking cool? Well, thank you. will do this, and I will start these from 20, and I will just... Okay, now let's do some Emacs keyboard macro magic. Record keyboard macro, go to beginning of line, go to end of word, call, oh, that didn't work. Okay, let me try that again. Love the idea of custom MIDI controllers. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun thing to do. Arguably, it is for a lot of use cases making it unnecessarily complicated. Most people will be served well by existing MIDI controllers. In my case, I actually went with this approach because this macro keypad was cheap compared to many MIDI controllers. It's like 50 euros, I think. Are you planning on dedicated MIDI macro features? No, I don't think I'm gonna do any complicated macros on the QMK side. I'm mostly gonna just make CC mappings, and then the complicated stuff is gonna happen in SuperCollider, which handles the MIDI input on the computer. Okay, but I need to try this keyboard macro again, so... And in this case I'm talking about Emacs keyboard macros, because I want to repeat something multiple times, so record, go to beginning of line, go to end of line, select last two, ink number at point, and then I guess we can go to end of line, duplicate, and that's the macro. Oh, lots of comments. Hello, Untitled. I have no idea what QMK is, but I have experience with Arduino and those MIDI libraries. Interested to learn more. Yeah, so QMK is basically a piece of C software that makes it easier to build like keyboard firmware on Arduino and various other MIDI controllers. Not MIDI controllers, but microcontrollers. So, you can write Arduino code, but it's a bit more low level than working with QMK, and QMK does all sorts of nice stuff, like out of the box, like RGB, lighting and all that, layers and whatnot. Your voice is so nice, you should do ASMR. Thank you. I don't know. I'm not really into that myself, but people do say to me often that my voice is nice, at least on stream, because on stream I talk very quietly. What are macros in this case? Does it have to do with the mini keyboard you're using? So in this case, a macro is just a thing in Emacs that lets me repeat an action multiple times, because, okay, we're getting to that now. So I defined the macro, and now I can press F4, and look what happens. We get 22, 23, 24, 25, etc. And I can just do that, and we get our 34 custom key codes. That's what the macro was for, nothing more. Okay. So let's try flashing that. Hello, Luxia Bun. I appreciate that QMK supports encoders and trackballs. Yeah, encoders are especially relevant here because we have 3 of them. And yeah, actually, I don't know if you can see my trackball. Yeah, it's just barely on camera. It's a Logitech Marble mouse, so it does not support QMK, but for my next trackball I would like to get one that does support QMK, because it's a bit of a hassle configuring these. Okay, let's flash that code. Okay, and presumably that did something. Let's see in MIDI monitor what happens. Okay, nothing happens. Oh, of course not, because I'm not handling these keycodes in any way. Subbed, cool channel, thank you. Yeah, I do a variety of programming and music related things. A lot of live coding and designing and implementing custom music systems, mostly in SuperCollider. Yeah, so what I'm missing is this process record user function. We're gonna need that. Let's put it before encoder update user. Okay, so the example code has just one CC code, and I don't want to duplicate this block 15 times, so I'm gonna do something else. Okay, let's do a macro again. And actually these are gonna start from 80 and not, or from 20 and not 80. Okay, that didn't work. Hold on, let me try that again. Defining Emacs macros can be a bit finicky. Okay, how about now? Right, that works. So now we have fall through with each of these keycodes. Made a custom Kyria keyboard with a Pimeroni trackball. It's quite fun, just wish the trackball itself was slightly nicer. I'm not sure what is the Kyria keyboard. Don't think I've seen that one. Oh, it's one of these tiny split ones. Cool. Yeah, these ones are neat, just I think they're a bit too small for me. I need more keys on my split ergo. As you can see, my Moonlander here has a bit more in the way of keys. But it is cool that you can put encoders and trackballs and stuff on these custom ones. Okay, so back to the code. So we are gonna handle all of these key codes. Then we are gonna find the CC number by we'll take key code minus MIDI CC 20, and then we'll add a 20 to that. Sort of feel the same way, been trying to get used to it, but too much layer switching for my taste, especially when writing code. Maybe one more row. Yeah, I think that's the big one for me as well, to have like the row of dedicated numbers. I don't miss the function keys, like I have those in a separate layer, and that's fine by me. It's a bit inconvenient in some games, but not huge. There's some games though where you really need like quick access to the function keys, and well, fortunately I don't play those. But yeah, I mean, this one that I have here, the BM40 RGB, this one is also very tiny and doesn't have a dedicated number row, so it's a bit awkward, and I mainly have this as like a secondary keyboard when I'm working with multiple computers at once. Then this one is connected to like the secondary computer, and then it's not super important to have like quick access to the numbers and everything. And like, I mean, the tiny ones are very portable, and that's also one reason why I have this one. Although this one is pretty heavy because it's an aluminium shell. But I find that the Moonlander is also quite portable, like portable enough for my needs anyway. I take it to work every day. Okay, CC num, that's gonna be this. Oh, I need to remove one of those. And then, instead of hard coding 80 here, we are gonna put CC num, and we're actually gonna, in my opinion, simplify this. What is the type of MIDI CC on? Or rather, I guess, what is the type that MIDI send CC expects? uint8, of course. I'm gonna call that CC val, and okay, now I already forgot what is the flag I need to check, so let me bring that back. Quick question, have you ever seen anyone circuit bend hardware with software? Kind of like EEPROM flashing vintage keyboards. Would be fun to see this kind of thing be more commonplace. Yeah, I think people do that. One challenge with that is that it's often not possible, or at least highly non-trivial, to dump the factory firmware. So you kind of have to like write your firmware from scratch and find out where everything is mapped, like in terms of pins and whatever. So it's quite a lot of work often. I was looking into that a bit when in the past I did streams about this MIDI controller, which is a Novation Nocturne, which is not actually a MIDI controller, it's a USB controller with a custom MIDI protocol that they map to MIDI with software that runs on the computer, and that software is now unsupported. So what I wanted was to make it usable again by reverse engineering the protocol. Although my first idea was to write a custom firmware for this that would maybe be able to do class compliant MIDI over USB. But then that just seemed like too much work, and also the flash memory on that thing is write protected, so you can't dump the existing firmware, and I don't think they ever made like firmware updates for it, so you can't find it online either. So that would have been a bit too much work, and then what I ended up doing was to make a USB user space driver instead to do the conversion. Hold on, gonna add some music to the playlist. Possibly adding more parameters or patch randomizers, adding knobs. On my deskbob I have just 3 layers, symbols, movements plus number, everything else. Just a lot of chords, some tap holds, some tap dance. Never been able to get used to home rows modifiers. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to approach this, and also now I'm curious, what is the deskbob? It's another one of these split ergonomic-ish keyboards. Okay, with chalk switches, I see. Nice. Firmware upgrades are out there for vintage gear. It's all in NEC assembly, it seems, so probably tough. The protections seem a bit much. Yeah, well, you know, these companies are very protective of their intellectual property. Even if it seems to me like that's not what makes them the money on a MIDI controller, but rather the hardware, build quality and everything. But yeah, actually, that reminds me, I have used some custom firmware for one of my devices. So the Volca sample, the Korg Volca sample, for that there is a custom firmware called Pyen by Ranzi, or no, by Pyen, but I guess Ranzi is hosting this, or like this page about it. So this is based on the official firmware, which is, I guess, more easily available because Korg does official firmware updates for this device, so I guess they extracted the firmware and probably disassembled it and figured out where to hook custom functionality, and then there's a few extra things that this does in addition to the factory, or like the stock firmware. And it's pretty cool. If you have a Volca sample, I recommend trying this out. I'd love to learn how Tontec does firmware upgrades for all those synths. Don't think I've ever used Tontec. Yeah, Audio Pills loves that Volca samples firmware updates. Right. Okay, but we're getting a bit sidetracked, or I am. You are of course free to comment anything that comes to mind. So what I was gonna do here is check this record event pressed flag, and if it's true, then we're gonna do MIDI CC on, and otherwise MIDI CC off. And then we can get rid of the if statement here. We can just do this now. It seems like we don't need any initialization code for the MIDI device. I suppose it all defaults to 0, so the channel is gonna be channel 0. Okay, let's try this. Korg seems easier to work with, like the ESX Electribe and Volca samples. Yeah, seems that way. Got a Volca samples, gotta try it. Yes. Oh, okay, I forgot to update this, so that should be CC val. Thanks for the sidetrack there, Fermin. Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's not the first time I get sidetracked on one of my streams, and it certainly won't be the last. Gotta run, good luck with the coding. Thank you. See you, hopefully, another time. Okay, now we can flash. Like this. No, wait, what? Okay, this doesn't seem to work anymore. The flashing, or the bootloader boot key combo, that is. Interesting. I'm gonna do the unplug dance. I have a suspicion that now the process record user is like eating all the key presses. Let's see. What? Oh, so we're supposed to return false, I guess, when we are doing custom processing. Skip all further processing of this key. Oh, wait, I think I know what's happening. So it is probably switching the layer, but all of the actual keys are now being swallowed by this because we're not checking the layer here. So I need to do that. Although, wait. It was returning true, so it shouldn't be swallowing those. Okay, but I should check the layer anyway. How do I do that? I think we can check the encoder update user because that also has coded to check the layer. So copy paste programming. If layer equals RGB, although in this case we want the opposite. So if layer does not equal RGB, then we do the custom processing and return false. Otherwise we don't do anything and return true. Okay. Actually, I should run this with Emacs compile instead of a terminal because that's much more comfy. Okay. Unplug, press key, replug. Oh. Interesting thing there is that one of the encoders on the default layer is mapped to previous track and next track, and normally I don't have anything handling those, but the audio player I'm using right now actually does handle those, so got a bit of a music interruption there. I need to unbind those, but first let's see if I can actually... Okay, I can get the animation back. Night night, have fun with QMK. Yeah, thanks for joining. Good night. Gonna try this again just to see if the momentary layer switch works properly this time. Now I can put it in bootloader mode. Okay, so that does not actually work. Let me check how you're actually supposed to switch layers. Wait, I can check from my other key map. Oh right, it's this MO macro or function. I'm not sure actually. So we wrap this in MO. Whoops. Okay, that does strange things right now. Hold on. Okay, try that again. Okay, I think now we have that working. Yes, indeed. Slowly learning more about how to code, but I mainly do hardware repairs, learning mods, and some circuit bending. Oh, nice. Yeah, I have a lot of experience with code. A bit of repair, but not as much as I'd like. And same goes for mods and circuit bending. Rehousing older gear into smaller wood enclosures, adding features when possible. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's a funny thing about vintage hardware, is that there's often a lot of space inside the cases. So it may make sense to make a smaller case or to add more circuitry inside the existing case, depending on which way you want to go. Okay, but now let's go here. So now in MIDI monitor I should get CC messages, and I do indeed. Might have to zoom in here. Wait, don't I have the zoom enabled? Oh, it's supposed to be enabled, but doesn't do anything. Okay, it works. This keyboard zoom that I have for some reason. I'm not sure what's up with that. Okay, well, I can use that, of course. So now I can press these buttons. We get controller 20, 21, 22, 23. And then, okay, I guess these have like standard names, so we don't see the numbers. Maybe I can fix that. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, those are just the numbers. Okay, with that we already have a lot of the functionality that I want. I guess we could see how to set up the encoders for MIDI CC as well. So, encoder update user is the function that handles that. And here we already have a layer check. It occurs to me that instead of checking not equal to RGB, I should just check equal to base right here. It's gonna do the same thing in this case, but it makes more sense in terms of logic, I think. In case we're adding more layers. Okay, so we got the left encoder. I guess I'll just add more CC numbers here. And I think... how does it make sense to do the switch here? I think maybe we switch on the layer first. Case, base, and case RGB. Just a sec, I'm adding more music to the playlist. Because I keep running out. There we go. I don't know, maybe it makes more sense to do the switch by index first. But then this should be a switch instead of an if. Case base. Right, then something similar for the others. And for this one as well. Okay, now I have that structured the way I like. And I'm gonna leave the RGB mappings as they are. But as for the other ones, this seems a bit more involved than building your typical Arduino MIDI controller. So QMK is firmware software for custom mechanical keyboards. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And I mean, it can be more involved, it can be less involved, depending on what exactly you're doing. Like, we get this RGB lighting stuff for free with QMK. That would be quite a lot of code to do with Arduino. And QMK also gives us like it knows basically the keyboard layout, so where every key is, and then we can just, you know, write our key map as this kind of matrix structure. I don't need to care about like which pin is this key connected to and that kind of thing, which you have to do with Arduino. I remember seeing Tycho had a custom mechanical keyboard controller for Reaper. Awesome shortcut option. Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, it is a pretty cool option, because it is so flexible. And with some Arduinos and some other microcontrollers, you don't get like a... I forget what is it called, like the specific kind of USB controller you need to like actually make it show up as a MIDI device. Some of them don't have that. Others do, but I mean, I guess that's more of a hardware limitation than anything, but I've run into that specifically with like Arduino and some Arduino clones. And yeah, another thing that we get for free with QMK is these layers, so there's just another level of indirection here in the matrix definition, so each layer gets its own key map. And it's quite handy, I don't have to do a lot of like, if this, then that, else that, although for these custom functions I do end up having to do that anyway. Also, it occurs to me that this shouldn't be a switch, it should just be... like this. One line instead of 15 or whatever that was. That's much nicer. Right, so back to what I actually wanted to do, which was to send CC from the encoders as well. So here is where switching on the layer first would have made sense, because, well, I guess it doesn't matter, I'll just compute these in either case. So now the CC num is gonna be I guess index, which goes from 0 to 2, plus, let's say, 40, so we start at 40. Thank you for teaching us about this as an option, seems smart. Love the gear that I have with mechanical tactile switches. The Yamaha QY700 has clicky keys. Oh, nice. Fun to use over the RS7000 tactile switches. Yeah, I mean, I do also like, I'm not into the tactile or clicky switches myself. I prefer linears, and in particular I prefer to have them as light as possible. So that's what these MMD Vivians are. But that's the nice thing, right? You can pick what you prefer. And also, what's nice is that QMK supports many different types of devices, so if you want to switch to a different mechanical keyboard in the future, then you can just do that and quite easily adapt your code. Right, so here, instead of record event pressed, I want to switch, or I want to check the clockwise boolean flag. And so the idea here is just that if it's turning clockwise, I send CC on, otherwise I send CC off. Oh, we are getting some chat on the TikTok side, but it's not showing up. Okay, let me check what's up with that. I'm just gonna restart this thing. Okay, hello, not a throwaway. I love linear switches, but I have trouble typing on them. Yeah, I mean, it takes some getting used to, especially the light ones. But the thing is, and I've ranted about this before, but with tactile switches and with clicky switches, the idea is that it gives you feedback when you're actuating, right? But that's not actually how it works, because the feedback point is different from the actual electrical actuation, because it's a physical mechanism which is not like directly related to the electrical contacts touching. So what ends up happening is that on a tactile or clicky switch, you can, you can press it so that you get the feedback, but you don't get actuation. And that annoys me unreasonably much. Like, I tried a bunch of tactiles out, and when I found out that that's how it works, I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna do this. This is not gonna work for me. So I went the other way, which is the lightest possible switches with like the minimum amount of force required to press them. And so now I don't get any feedback when it's actually actuating, and I tend to bottom out instead when I'm typing. But it's fine, because they're so light. I see what you mean, your keys are not too loud. I like it, good to know. Yeah, I mean, these MMD Vivians are pretty nice. I'm sure you could make them even more quiet with like those rubber O-rings, for example, or silicone or whatever you want to put inside the switch. These don't have that. They are factory looped, so that helps a little bit. And I mean, they're still pretty loud, I think, especially because of the acoustics of the Moonlander, so there's a bunch of space like under the keyboard here because I have it tented up with these legs. So that gives it kind of like a surface to resonate from. And that makes it a bit louder. Like, you can hear the difference if I type on the Moonlander versus the new one. These are the same switches, but the acoustics are just completely different. So yeah, that's something to consider if you're getting into mechanical keyboards. Also, like, if you care about sound, I don't mind that much, but if you do, then you need to consider also the acoustics of the case of the keyboard. I like them all, loud and quiet, just fun. Yeah, me too, like, I don't mind that this is fairly loud. Which some people find that strange, because like I work with music a lot, and it's like, well, wouldn't you want your keyboard to be quiet when working with music? But no, whatever. But yeah. Okay, what was I doing? I was gonna send CC, but I don't want to do it here, but I want to do it instead of these things. Okay, so now the left, center and right encoders should all send their own CC messages. Yeah, then we need to actually flash it. This reminds me, something I want to figure out for QMK, which the Moonlander stock firmware does. I think it's like a forked QMK or something, but it has these like custom light or color maps for different layers. And I want to figure out how to do that with QMK as well. Because that can be a really handy bit of visual feedback. Okay, so we flashed. Let's see if that works. So if I turn now the leftmost knob, we get 127 or 0 on CC number 40, depending on if I'm turning left or clockwise or counterclockwise. And then likewise for the middle one on number 41 and 42 on the last one. Very nice. Sorry about the slow zoom, that's all I have access to right now. I think that is pretty much all I wanted to do on the QMK side for now. Like, there's a bunch more I want to do with regards to like these layers. For example, for configuring the RGBs and everything, but I don't care so much about that right now. So I'm gonna call this finished for the QMK side, and then maybe we can take a bit of a look at mapping this in SuperCollider. So to map MIDI controllers and also other controllers in SuperCollider, I use a library called Modality, which I have here. Modality Toolkit. And you use what's known as MKTL descriptions. That's modality control descriptions, I guess. Maybe. And here I have one for the MIDI Fighter Twister. So, this one is a bit complicated because the MIDI Fighter Twister does a lot of stuff. Pages, encoders, buttons, side buttons. But let's still use this as a template. So I'll call this Pulu Winry 315.desk.scd. Let me get rid of some of these windows. Okay, so this is not the DJ Tech Tools MIDI Fighter Twister. This is not defined for, designed for factory settings. This is for I guess I'll call it IE keymap for now. Everything comes in MIDI channel 0. So these are just comments, so I remember what is what. Just a bit of documentation. Okay, and then instead of these 3 channel variables, I'll have just one. We're not gonna have banks, I guess. this needs quite a lot of horizontal space. So we get rid of the banks, also of the make bank function. Make bank, as in money. Protocol MIDI, we have knobs and we have buttons. Wow, it's been over 3 years since I wrote the other one for the MIDI Fighter Twister. I wanted to check today's date, but in this macOS version they made it more difficult. So 3 encoders with integrated buttons, 15 keys. Just doing more documentation. So everything's gonna be CC, and then we drop this collect thingy because we don't have banks. This is kind of a mess at the moment because I'm trying to adapt this old code, but bear with me for a moment. Okay, and then we get rid of the page set buttons, because we don't have those either. Something about the brackets is suspicious here. Oh no, it's just weird indentation. Okay, that's fine. Right, we still have remnants of pages. I think we can just drop all of this stuff. Wait, what? No. We do need the elements key in there. Okay, I think that is basically the structure. We only have input. So we're gonna collect. And for each index, we're gonna have the number. Oh, actually, we're gonna go from 40 to 42. No, we are gonna go from. We're gonna go from 40 to 42, but we will also take the index in addition to the num. Then the style helps us create like a GUI for the controller, which is handy. Row is gonna be 0 for the encoders, I think. Column is gonna be 1 plus I. Okay, then buttons, those are also all just input. So I guess these need to be... Wait, now I need to check if MKTL or modality supports doing like relative encoders, because that's basically what these are now. I wonder where the different element types are documented. How to create a description file for a MIDI device. Yeah, I think we maybe don't get relative. Relative encoders with modality. But I might be wrong. It which might be in there, but just difficult to find. So most likely we could build a custom custom spec or type or whatever is the correct one. Let's see now. Okay, maybe I won't worry about that too much right now. I'm gonna leave that as MIDI CC. So let's just write something here. So we have 20 through 34. And num and I. Such a cool live stream. Happy I found your channel. Aphex Twin is a big user of SuperCollider. Definitely gonna watch some tutorials. About Aphex Twin, I'm not sure if he actually is. I mean, I remember hearing that he has used it, but I don't know if he like actively uses it a lot. Definitely gonna watch some tutorials. Yeah, if you're starting from like 0, then I recommend Eli Fieldsteel's tutorials on SuperCollider. They're very good. And he also wrote a book on SuperCollider, which is also good. The book doesn't go super deep, but it is more than enough to make music with. Okay. So then I just think I need to set the style for this one. Hold on, so we have index, we have 3 rows, each row has 5 buttons. So let's say we had index 5, then we run this. Yeah. yeah, row is just gonna be I integer divided by 5, and column is gonna be I modulo 5. Nice and simple. We can get rid of this bit. And that is, I believe, our description file. So let's try that out. Gonna restart SuperCollider. We have some sort of error. I think we're missing one ending parenthesis. Try again. Get rid of all the remnants of the MIDI fighter twister code. Okay, that looked better. Alright, so the way to use a modality controller is like this. And then we put the name of the desk in here. Alright, so now we have a reference to the controller in this variable winery. I think we can run GUI on this. Oh, I made a mistake with the GUI actually, because the row for the buttons needs to be 1 plus whatever I wrote, because row 0 is going to be used for the knobs. So restart again. And now we have our GUI that pretty much corresponds to our controller layout. And we can see that when I press buttons, even if I press multiple buttons, in fact I can press all of them, they light up here. And if I turn the knobs, then, well, it'll show the last value, whether it's like clockwise or counterclockwise. So with that, we have a GUI for the controller. The reason to do this, aside from visualization, is that it also gives you like a virtual controller, so you can map things to buttons and knobs on the MKTL, and then even if you don't have the actual controller connected, you can still use the virtual one and like press these with the mouse and then like test things out that way. And that's like such a genius feature of modality. Alright. So I think I actually want to put this in my usual startup code. And for the MIDI Fighter Twister, I have this setup where I can also connect like an OSC version of the controller. I think I do want to set that up for this one also eventually, but maybe not right now. But with this, I can run my startup code. And it's gonna take a moment. Oh, actually, I should not have done that yet, because I want the MIDI Fighter Twister connected as well. Where is the cable? Okay, so now we have both of them plugged in, and that's when I want to run my startup code. Is that done? I don't think so. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's done. Then I want to start up OSC eval. This lets me evaluate Emacs Lisp code received over OSC. And I'm gonna go to my inputs file, which is where most of the control mapping happens. Okay, so what do I actually want to do? I would like to do the thing that... Okay, maybe let's back up for a moment. Let me show you how this works in the first place, because I know not everyone has seen this. So, let's pick a title file, this one for example. So something I can do with my setup as it is just start and stop patterns with MIDI fighter twister. And the starts and stops take effect immediately. But what I would like to do is actually so that if I hold, let's say, one of the number keys here, then it'll quantize the start or stop to the next cycle or number of cycles specified by the button. So if I hold 1 and then press something here, then it won't happen immediately, but it will happen when the cycle changes to the next one at the cycle boundary. And Tidal does have a way to do that. Just need to remember what it is. Maybe it's in scratch.tidal. Jump mod, yeah. So basically, update pattern 1 at the start of the next cycle that is on level of 2. So the way this would work is that if I have a code block like this, then instead of D1, it would do like jump mod 1 and, for example, 1 here. So now if I run this, maybe easier to see on this other one. So let me start the break in a quantized manner. Oh, definitely want to learn pure data and or possibly Max at some point. Love the pure data firmware for the Volga drum. The glitch sequencer. Oh, interesting. I don't know what that is. I mean, I assume it's not running pure data on the device itself. Or is it? That seems... I think pure data is probably too heavy for that. Or, I don't know. Oh, I think it's more of a Volcadrum editor than a firmware update. Super cool. Opens the door to other shortcut expander / editor options for hardware. Sounds awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've done my fair bit of pure data. I actually used to get paid for working with pure data. So you could say I am a professional pure data developer. It's fun, but as someone with a programming background, I don't like visual programming as much as I do text-based programming, because, I mean, text-based programming is much better at abstraction, and when you develop complicated things, you really need abstraction. I mean, pure data does have some abstraction, like, well, it literally has something called abstractions, which is when you encapsulate a patch into like a single object. But some other kinds of abstraction are hard to do in pure data. Like different kinds of loops and recursion and that kind of stuff. Also, what I dislike the most about pure data is the pixel hunting and like clicking and dragging the cables from outlet to inlet. That's so frustrating to me. I guess some PD implementations do that better with slightly bigger hitboxes for all the stuff, but vanilla PD is really annoying about that. Anyway, so, okay, let me show you another thing that this already does. So, if I turn up the knob value, just a second. Something weird just happened. The hue light in the kitchen turned on itself, and I'm not really sure why. That's a little spooky, actually. I need to figure that out at some point. How on earth does that happen? I definitely did not. I wasn't even in the Hue app. sorry for getting distracted, but this is like really strange. Like, it makes me wonder, is someone on our network? But even if someone's on our network, they would have to register a client key with the Hue base station, and that requires pressing the button physically on it. Maybe the bridge is just bugging somehow. I don't know, weird stuff. Okay. What was I doing? Right. I wanted to show you this. So, on the MIDI fighter twister here, these encoders and the buttons underneath are for like special function, I guess, modifiers, whatever. And if I turn up the encoders, then that sets like a fade in or fade out time. So if I turn that up, then that's like a 4-bar fade in or fade out. And so now if I press this one, it fades in over time. And why am I telling you this? Well, because the way this is implemented is actually kind of clever, if I do say so myself. So what it does is it finds the D2 block in my code, then it specifically finds this bit that says D2, and then replaces that with like a fade in call. Now I have to try to remember where exactly that happens. It's probably in the Emacs Lisp code. In tidal.el. Yeah, so this is a bit of Lisp code that does that kind of string matching. Finds the D followed by a number. And yeah, replaces that with X fade in number to string, blah blah blah. Okay, so basically I want to do this, except... Wait, why is this here? That doesn't do anything. But yeah, I want to do this, except now instead of a fade, I want to do what I showed you earlier, which is the jump mod. And maybe it would make sense to have like a common helper function for this stuff. Just need to think about how this actually works. So we don't get the pattern number as an argument, but rather we just get a block of code, and then we find the pattern number from that. I mean, that makes sense, I guess. So actually, replace has to be a function that takes the D number. And so this becomes replace n, because n is now the number. And fade goes away from this function. Okay, and then, oh, I should call this actually just title transform D, and then we re-implement title transform D to fade using that. So this is now lambda that gets n. Then I guess we just return this bit. Does that make sense? I think so. And then the jump mod one can be also quite a bit shorter. I guess I'll call the parameter mod. Could probably use format here instead of this concat stuff, but this is fine. Oh, also this orbit thing should maybe go. No, it has to be in here for now. Or does it? Let's keep it in there for now. It's a bit of repetition, but it's fine. Let's see if this still works with our redefinitions. It does not. So what went wrong? Oh, this is not really a let declaration now. So the declarations end there, and then this goes here. Yes. Still not quite right. Oh, we need to do apply here. Or I guess phone call is the right one. Oh, and I just realized I have not been showing the code on the big screen. I'm making that mistake less and less often, but apparently I still make it sometimes. Okay. So now the question is, how do we do our jump mod thingy? So we need to check first how is actually this function used. So it's used with title run D, that makes sense. I think the structure of this should maybe be different because I now have this taking a fade argument, but I'm aiming to make this into something that can support many kinds of transformations. And in that case it does not make sense for fade to be an argument. But rather we should take a transformation as an argument. But this is gonna be quite a lot of work to fix, or change rather. So I might not do that tonight. What I will do instead is hack around the problem. So what we do here is get, depending on the fade parameter, we get a function to transform the text. What if instead we check if a variable called transform text is already bound and that variable is not nil, then we do a different kind of thing. Otherwise we do the old logic. And so if it is bound, then I guess we can just return transform text, because that's gonna be a reference to a function. And then that gets fed to title run multiple lines, and then I think everything should be fine. Okay. Let's maybe try this out without the MIDI controller first. So now I should be able to do this, where I say let transform text be a function and it will do that we do title run d2. Okay, I think that's not working. But why not? Let's see, so what if I just run this check? Okay, that's not working. Okay, do I have bound P wrong? Seems to me like this should work. Note that if lexical binding is in effect, this refers to the global value outside of any lexical scope. So that's not quite right. Okay, now doing a bit of an Emacs detour. putting on some music again. Okay, I suppose I'm really going against the whole idea of lexical binding here with what I'm trying to do. So, let's think of another way to implement this. Maybe there's not really any other way than just passing in a function. Don't really like this proliferation of parameters, but let's try it this way. Okay, so now if we have the kick running, this actually needs to be a lambda. Wait, this gets pretty complicated, so I guess. Wrong number of arguments. Why do we get wrong number of arguments? So this takes 2 arguments. Oh, I haven't re-evaluated this definition. That's why. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so the proof of concept works. Now all that remains is to map that to a MIDI thing. Inputs. Okay, and to do that we need to define a way to get the number currently being pressed on the keypad. So how do we do that? Well, let's start in this Scratch file. Alright, I have this now named something else, but I forget what. Wait, where is the MFT variable actually defined? There. So we are going to do this. Okay, that gives us the controller, MKTL. Now we got the GUI. I wonder if we can get a window from that. And set it to always on top. Okay, that doesn't actually work. Fine. It won't be always on top. But then we can get button number 1 and get the value of that. So at the moment it's 0. If I press it down, it's 1. Okay, so that's actually the second button, so what I really want is button 0. But we need to do a bit of math here, because the number buttons that I care about are these. So basically everything except the first column. And to do that we will how should I do it? Maybe I'll just go 1 to 4 plus 6 to 9 plus what is it? 11 to 14. So that would be a list of the buttons that we're interested in. Let's give that a name. Num keys, or number keys, I guess, because num keys could mean the number of keys. So I will iterate through number keys. I wonder if there's a way to get like a collection and turn that into MKTL elements. Whatever. So we have the number, we have the index. Let's group this stuff up a bit. So what we're gonna do is take from winry element at button and then none. We're gonna give that an action. Action receives the MKTL element. Let's just post the index +1 and the value of the element. So now if I press number keys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, that gives me all the number keys mapped. Then we need an array to store the values of each of these. Then in our action we assign the index at I of that array to the result of comparing the key value if it's greater than 0. So this will be true or false. Oh, and then I guess we should post this just so we can see what's going on. So now we have like a list being updated with each, the state of each of those number keys. Okay. And then finally I want a function that tells me the currently pressed numbers, basically. That doesn't take any arguments, so I think I actually have a similar function written already. It's this one. But it's not actually. Yeah, it's gonna be a different logic. But let's see. Oh, I guess I could call this state just to be like consistent. Another key state. state, and this is not quite correct yet, but yeah, because it's always gonna include those nils in there. Is there a function that's like collect and filter at the same time? I guess we could do it with inject. I'm not sure how this works. Let's see. So let me call this function here. Okay, so we get the previous value here. Okay, and then, so yeah, the number nums, which is like the numbers accumulated so far, the state of the current number, and then I. So, if state is true, if not, then we just return nums unchanged. Otherwise, we add I plus 1, I guess. Yeah, that looks correct. So now when I press 1, 5, and 12, I get all of those in the list. Nice. And then one more function, which is get max number pressed, because I'm gonna want to know the highest number that is currently pressed. And that's just max on that. So now, oh, let's print that. Wait. That seems wrong. Still getting all the numbers. Oh, because it's maximum and not max. Or not? Oh. Max item. Or did I not remember that? Okay. Okay, so now we can always get the highest number. Get rid of that little print there. Now I'm gonna put this code in here. So with that number we can now do something right here. So we're gonna add another condition here. This is going to be get max number pressed, and we're going to check if that's not nil. And in that case we are gonna run something a bit different. Okay, and what happens here? I guess we just take this code from before. So here we put max number pressed. Now the problem is that this calls title register and run variation, but that's not the function I edited previously. So yeah, I kind of need to pass transform text in here as well. And then I also need to edit title run D registered variation to take that parameter. And then that gets me to title run D, which I already edited. Okay. That should do it, I believe. So let's try. D1, start it normally. And now, if I hold the number 2 and press the D2 button, yes, it works. Very nice. So, what that means now is I can, for example, queue up 2 things to happen. Okay, that works. And that is just the first step of what I want to do with this, but it's a pretty good one. It proves that this system works. Now it's just a matter of like adding features, I guess. Yeah, it's getting late here though, so I think I'm gonna have to call it a night here. But we made good progress, starting from programming the MIDI controller with QMK, and then using the MIDI data in SuperCollider and title cycles and even Emacs Lisp. That last part may be a bit difficult to understand if you're not already familiar with my system, but the point is that now I can use these 2 controllers in tandem so that these buttons act as modifiers for these, and hopefully that gives you some ideas of what you can do with whatever controllers you may have yourself. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks to everyone in the chat. It was nice and lively today. No promises about upcoming streams. My schedule is kind of unpredictable right now, but yeah, we'll see. Final things to mention. I did a live performance with my new PHP live coding system last weekend. You can find that on my YouTube channel. It's this video called I Played Live Music with PHP. Then I have an album out. It's called Nested. The title piece that we heard bits from while I was testing is from here. It's called Vermilion Starlight. This is an album fully made with code, so there's title cycles, there's Sonic Pi, there's SuperCollider 2 in there, and even the cover art is made with code. So if you want to support what I do, buy my album or albums. I have more releases as well. Yeah, I really appreciate it if you are able to do that. it keeps me going. But yeah, that's it. Have a happy new year in a few days. I don't think I'm gonna be streaming before that, but it's not impossible. We'll see. But yes, let's see what 2025 brings. Alright. Like, follow, subscribe, press all the buttons, buy my music. And see you in the future. Bye bye.